Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kalpa, Senior Manager of Education from India Vision Institute. I welcome you all to the second talk of excellence in vision science. So this is going to be on design and development of tonogoniometry for angle closure glaucoma care. And to speak on this topic, we have Dr. S.V. Ramesh. Welcome, Ramesh.
Thank you.
Short Ramesh. Dr. Ramesh began his career as an optometrist and clinical researcher in 2001 and has academic, clinical, and research experience in the field of optometry, vision science, and eye care. He is currently the professor at the Department of Optometry, Manipal College of Health Sciences, Manipal Academy of Manipal College of Health Professionals, Manipal Academy of Health Education. He completed his doctorate in 2014 from the BITS Pilani, and his research focus was on estimating 5-year progression of glaucoma, both structural and functional changes, evaluated using the ophthalmic images and imaging and perimetry test. And this was a part of Chennai glaucoma study conducted at Shankar Netradya. He received the Indo-US Public Health Research Postdoctoral Research Fellowship in the year 2014 at Wilmer Eye Institute, Johns Hopkins University. His interdisciplinary research team have received over 5.2 crores research grants from national, international, and industry funding agency. He has research articles in peer-reviewed index journals with an H index of 20 and has 4 patent filed. He is currently listed among the top 200 optometry and vision science researchers globally and is one of the 2 researchers listed from India. He was one of the India coordinator Erasmus project, optometry curriculum for lifelong learning through Erasmus, the Oculus program. So Oculus is a consortium of optometry educators with the aim to reform optometry education in Israel and India towards European standards and develop resources for improved education throughout lifelong learning. He also has a keen interest towards techno and entrepreneurship and actively supports and is a founding director of Vicent Care Private Limited, incubated at Manipal University Technology and Business Incubator, and he's a recipient of the Biotechnology Ignition Grant. They are engaged in innovative technology and solution in tele and home eye care. In addition to indigenous technology solutions, they have collaborations with international partners towards self-refraction, care, and virtual reality-based smart teleoptometry care technology, and launching the novel virtual reality-based technology in Indian market. The innovations from his research has won the gold medal for the best innovation at DST Lockheed Martin India Innovation Growth Program 2013, and he's also nominated for the DST Lockheed Martin India Innovation Growth Program. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh, for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalpa, and good afternoon, everybody. I really appreciate the efforts from IVI to help showcase the research and the kind of innovation work that is happening in India and across the globe. And I hope and pray all of you are keeping good health and safe during the waves that we are seeing. I think that's this is going to be a new norm as all of us have already started accepting. And looking at the goodness, we are all connected through online and very happy to meet you all. So when Dr. Kalpa and the team from IVI connected, we thought, okay, we had a very good talk by my good friend, Dr. Shrikant last month on the quality of research and the output that they do at LU Prasad. And here we have opportunity to share some of the work that we are doing in technology development. The topic, as mentioned, we'll be talking about the design and development of tonogoniometry. And I would mainly intend to giving some pointers and lessons that we learn and in the whole process of medical device and technology development. because the key aspect of any medical device is that we need to develop a safe, efficient, cost-effective, and efficacious technology that can reach and address a certain problem. Okay, so I hope my slide is moving, right? Yeah. So these are my financial disclosures. So I have received funds, and some of the research work that I'm going to be presented are have IP with Manipal, and also collaborated with a lot of other startups to ensure that technology that we work at an academic institute like Manipal is getting translated into a product which will reach each one of you soon. So a technology development, say tonogonography, a concept that I'm going to introduce now, a new area of technology, is not possible by just a single group. So it is completely interdisciplinary team. And what I'm going to present today is the collective effort and work of each of these individuals here who have shared their insights and who keep on inspiring us onto how we can develop tools and solutions to the problem statements that we present. So a team from optometry, we have myself and a couple of research scholars, and Siddharth is a research scholar who's been engaged in that earlier. The key aspect was driven by Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram from instrumentation control. So you have from engineering, you will have a lot of people here. On the left, you can see engineering team from mechanical and manufacturing engineering. We have instrumentation and control engineering. And we also have a team from biomedical engineering, where I've put Dr. Bharati, but she's going to be Dr. Bharati. She's a faculty colleague from electrical engineering, but she is registered for a PhD. And a part of this work, which I'm going to present, is from her PhD ongoing activity, right? And we also have a lot of students who have worked on. I thank the efforts from Dr. G.K. Prabhu, he's a professor and he is the president of Manipal University Jaipur campus. And we have a good support from our industry partners who are optoelectronic experts and medical device experts too. So with this kind of an collaborative team is where a journey for developing an technology, interdisciplinary technology begins. Okay, so till date, our research outcome has been most of this work has been supported by the MAHE intramural and individual research funding. And we have got a patent now. So now we have a stronger approach to write for grants. And we have so far had 3 publications and a couple of masters and PhD out from this research work. So any innovation is driven by interdisciplinary and rather multidisciplinary in nature. So when I say multidisciplinary, I mean to say that eventually we would like to bring in people from design background, people from art and other aspects, so that the development of a technology can be more aesthetically appealing too. So it is not just it's multi and even transdisciplinary in nature. But what is the driving factor is the team. So we are people with different things, right? You know, in optometry and ophthalmology itself, we have so many divisions, like how we get, we have retina, cornea and things. I just said a whole list of engineering specialties. So each one of them have their set competencies, right? So we need to really communicate and understand the key problem that we as clinicians or we as a clinical thing, we put it forth to them. That understanding and mutually enabling us to have a communication between a clinician and engineer is the key factor. So it is very important that we keep on asking the right questions, and there is a process of learning that happens. And one of the ways to strengthen association beyond publication in technology-driven research is when such good intellectual ideas come out, okay, when we are put in constraints, say that I need a cost-effective thing, I need more portable device, I need more imaging options, I need something that can measure intraocular pressure while doing gonioscopy, and that's what you're going to hear today. That's what is called the tonogoniography. We put in real good engineering approaches, novel ways to address the clinical challenge and come out with intellectually novel ideas. When new ideas come in, we have to get into a habit of filing the patent, looking for how other patents are there globally and how our thing is more novel, and file a copyright. And if there are some other patents in the similar area, we need to also get freedom to operate, FOA kind of estimation. So these are something a new separate skill sets beyond just reading a research paper. One needs to also start getting to reading patents and other prior arts, as it is called, in to understand how we develop technology that is novel and that's going to have some disruption in the clinical space that we want to do, right? So if you just look at the whole process of developing a new technology, these are the footsteps. You have a concept stage. You take a good amount of time getting a team building up and forming a whole team to develop, go to proof of concept. Then from proof of concept, you become more stronger, having good intellectual property that has been filed, and you have a little more clarity on the way you go. And then you go to iterative prototyping. And this is where a lot of engineering and technology inputs happens. But key aspect which I'm going to emphasize today is a concept known as design thinking, wherein you need to always interact with users at various levels and get into an agile form of technology development, right? And then we get on to pre-commercialization and finally reach the commercialization stage. So to just walk through, if you're looking at stage of disease, stage of the product development of technology, first thing that comes is concept stage. So there will be many ideas. There will be so many ideas, so many unproven things. A lot of unknowns are there at this stage. Then you, as a team, you start working together, have regular meetings, interact and discuss papers, discuss patents that are there. So gradually you narrow the scope of the application, decide, oh, the pain point is clear. Okay, is the clinicians really have the pain problem that we as this group of researchers say, and then validate it, and then start looking at how we can solve this by technology solutions and develop a proof of concept. It can be a very rugged proof of concept to start with. And then after you do that, okay, you have to understand what are the key driving factors for such a technology, because the market is going to drive how much you can invest in, how expensive a technology of this sort can be, right? And then you go on to developing a prototype. And during prototype stage, you will be doing a lot of testing. It means like you'll be doing lab level testings, animal model testings. You'll be doing most of the engineering and verification of the idea and test various scenarios, how the whole thing works, and strengthen the iterative prototyping stage. Okay, I'll walk you through with the example of tonogoniometry more elaborately in this presentation. And then we would go on to a stage 4, wherein after doing a lot of research work here and finalizing which of the solution is more robust, safe, efficacious, and providing good results, we go to real models. That is, we go to patient care. After proving the safety and efficacy, we then go to pre-commercialization, then go on to complete engineering design and mass manufacturing and making a device ready. So this is the kind of process that one has to understand. So just getting a grant and or doing a hackathon and getting a concept stage is not what we say success is, right? You know, you need to understand the whole life cycle of medical device development and start looking at the bigger picture. So as researchers or as core idea, whereas you have to have the big view of how you are going to drive your team from stage 1 to stage 5. And that is what is very important in technology-driven research. That's my opinion too. So now coming on to the problem statement, right? So the team started discussing, and me being really honored to be a part of one of the India's largest epidemiological study on glaucoma. So wherein we came out with data that was showing that every 8th person of age of 40 is suffering from glaucoma in our country, right? And we almost have 1.1 million blind and 11 million who are above age of 40 having glaucoma. And these estimates are growing significantly. And what is that whole difference? I had to make our team understand that, you know, the type of glaucoma that is more prevalent in India and Asia are angle closure group, right? It might be primary angle closure, occludable angle closure, but here is where we need to look at the angle structures, okay, and look at how we can classify the disease, and then early detection saves glaucoma patients from losing their vision, So it is very important that the team start to understand this. So we then we also understand that in a clinical scenario, we have a lot of technology that is used in glaucoma care. If you're looking at a comprehensive glaucoma care, a good history is the key. Okay, understanding the patient's systemic, family, and other history is the key. But beyond that, technology-wise, if you look at, we have the tonometry, gonioscopic evaluations that are done, and we have a lot of options that are there in the clinic, and then we quantify the glaucoma based on the structural changes in their optic nerve head and look at the functional loss due to perimetry. So then in this group, we were looking at, okay, what is that novel thing? What is not there? Was, okay, we do have separate technologies, and some crude idea came in. Why don't we just look at combining gonioscopy and tonometry? Then just an idea, then we had to just, okay, is it possible? Then why should we combine? Ask these questions. Okay, how can we combine? Is there a necessity that we should combine, right? So these are all the kind of questions that came in. Okay, if I combine this, is it going to be just a frugal innovation, saying that I have one gonioscopy, I have tonometry put together? No. Are we solving a problem, right? So already the clinical armamentarium has so many solutions, right? We have the Goldman mirrors, we have the 4-mirror, 3-mirror lenses. We have so many lenses that are there, and we have intraocular pressure measurements through various modalities. But the recent guidelines from the Asia Pacific glaucoma group suggest more on the applanation tonometry, right? So we have all these technologies that are available. But what was the key problem? Okay, so then we had to ask clinicians. Okay, so what is it that, okay, if I develop a product, if I develop a solution, if I put a team and we start working on solving, what is the problem? One key problem that research, the practice, behavioral research has helped to understand is gonioscopy, though it is considered as part of comprehensive eye care, it is not done regularly in all clinics. Why? Training is a problem because people have fear, while not all optometrists do it. Even among ophthalmologists, unfortunately, there are good studies that say that they're not doing gonioscopy on a regular basis, right? So there are procedural challenges while doing gonioscopy. Second, in a scenario like COVID or even pre or post COVID, hopefully, we also have aspects like we have to do two procedures. IOP is the modified risk factor, so I've done IOP, right, and then do a Van Herrick very quickly. But we know that Van Herrick is not a very strong methodology to really classify an angle closure. But the time it takes to do a 3-mirror gonioscopy or a 4-mirror gonio lens is something that is going to be there. And we had to put 2 times. One, I touch for IOP, and again, I touch for the gonioscopy. So these were all the aspects that we thought, okay, these are key problem statements. So if I develop a solution that has one-touch solution, say, there is no other technology that combines these procedures, though it is contact. In one contact, you'll also get toneography. You'll get the IOP measurement, and you also get the things. And then what is happening is, even a tenured clinician, even in a busy clinic, depending on the patient's comfort levels, how much you indent or how much you push while doing an gonioscopy procedure has a challenge. So there is no feedback. So we can also ensure that we can provide some feedback. So how do we get to these things? Is that we follow something known as the agile stage gate model, right? Basically the stage gate model looks at adaptive and flexible. At the initial idea, you go to the users. So we interacted with key opinion leaders, okay, and ask them, okay, fine. Do you really see that when I do gonioscopy, I have this problem, right? I do not know how much I'm indenting. Do you also have a problem? So if I have a feedback mechanism that is built in, is that going to be good? So clinicians will give their ideas. So what is it going to help? These clinical points are going to the engineering team. Okay, so they prepare the idea screen. Oh, these are all the problem statements the clinicians or the clinical thing has, and are these real problems? That is where the concept of design thinking comes. So you need to really validate, okay, is that a real problem? So you ask, you again interact with clinicians and even the patients, okay, before just say, that is a problem. But you have to ask the patient, is there a real problem? So we first do a small level of interview before we get into any technology developments. right? So then we list out, okay, these are all the key main problems I would want a solution for, okay? Not just simply combining a gonioscopy and tonometry, but we should also have ensure that there is a continuous measurement of IOP while doing procedure, okay? So that it can give me values of aqueous flow and inherent value. Or secondly, I should also be able to give a feedback to the clinician that I'm pushing the cornea more. Can that be given? So we listed these kind of problems, and then we went on to developing a proof of concept, right? So mainly what most of the aspects that comes is in research, in technology development, we have to have regulatory compliance right away in our mindset, and planning based on reference standards are much robust if you do that. So we started with idea validation stage. That is where we look at the problem statement as I explained in the previous slide, and then start looking at, okay, for this idea statement, okay, what is the evidence that is there? Is there a solution that is available in the market? No, all those are non-contact procedures. Currently in gonioscopy, we don't have a feedback mechanism that is in place. We don't have a method where while doing gonioscopy, what is the IOP variation that is not available, right? And then look at these assumptions and create an innovation list, right? So these are very important. So the proof of concept has to have inputs from all users, say the clinicians, the glaucoma patients, okay, and the optometrists who are doing the procedures, okay, and also the engineering team, wherein they understand what is the technology that they can do to answer these things. So that is where the problem state comes. You spend a lot of time here, and then we went on to developing the proof of concept. Now, okay, from the proof of concept stage, at the proof of concept stage, there are a lot of engineering tools that we started using, okay? Some of you might know it. These are basically engineering simulations on a finite element method, wherein it is, there are many tools. We have used COMSOL, there are ANSI. These are softwares like, Excel and say MATLAB or R. These are basically 3D modeling softwares that help us simulate the physiological characteristics, the elasticity, the engineering parameters of the eye, right? Not just looking at the Gulf stand. So we take the Gulf stand eye model as a base, but we start putting in, okay, the cornea is this thick, this is the viscosity, this is the flexibility, this is how its stretching abilities are, the strain that happens at the borders of the cornea, and the limbus is so, and then we have models that we create, and we create a 3D model to say, okay, if I place a gonioscopy and a tonometry head, okay, we did modeling that was done for, if I place an IOP intraocular pressure head alone, right, only a tonometry head, how is the deformation that is happening? Okay, so at the 3.06 millimeter square area, if I flatten it, this is how the whole the multi-physics model varies. Okay, so at each pressure levels, we saw how much of displacement that happens. Okay, we model it, and then we kind of get data. This is not a real patient, so we simulate at various eye pressures. Okay, if the pressures were high, if I increase the diameter from a Goldman 3.02 millimeter to a 12 millimeter, like a gonioscopic base, how will that vary, right? So we simulate these kind of assumptions that are engineering assumptions related to the clinical question, and then develop a 3D model, right? And then 3D model gives us the feedback of, okay, fine, this is how the key design inputs have to be, right? This is how you develop the base. This is how you develop what goes into the whole product development and things like that. These are some of the publications that has come out of this work. After the 3D model, that gives us the proof of concept, right? So we know that, okay, there is a possibility to develop these designs, okay? Then we can look at, okay, how the development, we develop a design dossier, we call it, okay, design planning is done, fine. Then we say, okay, fine. What is the customer feedback? Can I create a rough prototype? Okay, and then again, go back to the customer. Can you see a chain that is there? This is what is called a design thinking iteration that happens. So you have an idea, you have some proofs, you again go back to the clinical and the technological team. develop something that is crude enough, and then start drawing that in a wire board. Okay, so when you do that, you have to also ask key aspects, like documentation becomes a thing. So design verification is basically, did I make the product right? Okay, and then design validation is, did I make the right product? These are two different questions. So engineering guys will be looking at design verification. That is, hey, did I make that sensor properly? Does the value, when I touch the ocular surface, does it give a correct IOP values? So these are verifications, right? And then you look at, okay, fine, are we solving the problem that was set by the user earlier? And am I having a correspondence with what the user really wants? And that is design validation in a crux. Okay, so then we started working on that, and then we developed an embedded vibration sensor on gonio lenses. Okay, so recently this month we got this paper published in wherein we look at how a tonogoniometry can appear. So we use the conventional gonio lens, okay, and then started looking at how we can embed a rough prototype. So you can see that this is not the kind of product that you would get, right? When you have it in your hand, you will have it as a very smooth, safe, effective model. But this is a rough prototype that we started with. So to prove the next level of POC from the design or the fabrication, that is the finite element modeling, okay, then we start working on key engineering designs, right? So then we have a team. So the team from electrical engineering and instrumentation control, they work on signal conditioning circuits. Okay, how we can create a processing unit, right? And what are the aspects that go in? So these are vibration sensors. So even if I make a small jiggle of the gonioscopic lens, it will create a waveform, right? Something like what you see. So then we had to create multiple levels of filters and amplifiers. Okay, the gain of the amplifier was there as in this formula. So we have to really understand how we can limit these noises that could come out of a sensor. So we choose 4 or 5 different variations of vibration sensors and other means of sensors. Okay, embedded sensors, and then we finally started experimenting on each one of them and started to get the real data on experimental design. So these are nothing is done so far on human eyes or anything. These are all just done on, say, animal models or goat eyes and things, which you'll see in the next step, right? So the first level is to look at whether it's possible. So now we are answering that, okay, I can combine a gonio lens with the tonometry. Okay, I can have, we can find out which is the best suitable sensor and the sensor design, the processing unit, because the data that's going to come, it finally has to give you an IOP value. Can that be done, right? So the key aspects, and can there be a feedback? If I'm pushing more pressure, can there be a nudge? So if I push more, then there's a peak. Can a software identify this? So we started developing basic software. This is a snap from a software known as LabVIEW, right? So these are engineering tools that our colleagues from engineering departments bring into us, right? And then we understand that and start experimenting on those things, right? After that, we draw a clear, more clarity on engineering specifications, and we start developing more work-like prototypes, okay, which can be mechanical in this case, and we have the PCB, that is the control board, okay, and then we have the firmware and software that is being stacked, okay, which means that there is an software that we can embed. So what we mean is we started developing an experimental setup wherein the one you're seeing here is the manometric setup, wherein we have the animal eye. So we have done on around 30 goat eyes. Okay, these goat eyes were preserved after they were got from a butcher, and then they were brought in to the lab. And then we had a holder that was where we keep the goat eye, and then inserted the manometric setup into that, and then increase the pressure inside the goat eye or at various levels. So this is, again, we are only doing design verification, whether if the sensor is giving me the right value or not, right? And then we used intraocular pressure measurements using eye-care tonometer, because that has been approved to be used in animal eyes. And then we started getting values. So you can see that, there is very good correlation Okay, the limits, what you're seeing in this graph is how the voltage varies. If the pressure is 10, then there's low voltage that is giving, and then based on the IOP values, we slowly get into, we can estimate based on the voltage outputs that comes out of the sensor, we can estimate a clear IOP. So we started doing for lower pressures and then increase the pressures to higher levels, and finally verify that engineering design is working well and good, right? So far what you saw is a prototype from an idea stage. We started working on, hey, whether can we develop tonometry and gonioscopy together. We understood the need. We listed out the need. We didn't understand it. And then we had to look at, okay, is it really safe and effective? So today, at this level, at this point, the research work that we have done is only till animal model verification, not even animal model, but only on goat eyes and in vitro verification in the lab, saying that the tonometry values are there. But from now on, what we need, the next steps to go along is to look at, is the technology in healthcare, is it safe, effective, and efficacious? So a lot of human factors implied, right? So what this means is we have to look at all the user. Okay, what will happen if the user environment, say if it's a new person who's learning to use our instrument, okay, if he pushes it more, or if the design of the instrument can harm the cornea. So all these things on risk management has to be discussed now. That is what we are now doing, and then simulating such environmental aspects and saying that how our design from now on, from a crude prototype to a final product that might happen in the next couple of years, because for that we are writing for grants today and raising more funds so that we can develop a safe and effective technology. Okay, so moment we have the minimum viable product. So currently we have written for 2 grants, and we hope to get the funding support to develop a completely working prototype that can be tested first on rabbit eyes. Okay, in Mahe we have the animal lab, so that rabbit eyes we will do and see whether we are not harming, the design is not harming the cornea, conjunctiva, or the limbal region, and then after that animal research, we will get permission from the Drug Control General of India and get ethics approval for both animal and human research. Then start design validation, that is on human patients. That is, we have to get small samples and start getting. Okay, and with this data, we should also apply for regulatory approvals so that we can start approaching for larger clinical trials and things like that, right? So you saw that in a technology development, just getting an idea is not just enough. That is a starting point, and that's where your commitment starts, right? You start developing bigger ideas, and you can see the funnel is getting narrower and narrower. So initially you have a lot of ideas, and then you interact with a lot of stakeholders. Okay, so users not only means clinicians and doctors. You also have to look at, can I purchase? Can I interact with vendors? Can I get these kind of things? Can I manufacture my own gonio lens? Or should I only get what is available in town and then modify it to fit it? In that case, how are we going to do that? Are we having any problems? Then we do idea scoping. And currently in our stage, we have crossed the stage gate 2. So you are seeing a lot of gates here. What it means is, okay, it's something like, I see if I have an exam, then I will study more, right? Something like that. So you have in research, it is completely adaptive and flexible, right? You take your own time, but if you keep on only doing research and not having a clear goal, okay, to have a product in place, then you do not follow, you will not be able to achieve specific milestones. And the gates are basically something like, exam points, wherein you, as a team, the whole team sits down and says, okay, do we have evidence now? Okay, to say whether are we clear with the idea? Okay, then everybody discusses and we meditate and then say, okay, now we can move on from this gate to the gate 2, wherein we'll do more idea scoping. Okay, so whatever research I'm showing now, we discuss it and then we go to the next gate, okay, and see whether is there a thing. So these discussions happen in team, but we again get back with the spirals of customers and users and look at how we can evolve at a certain stage. Currently, we are in just crossing stage 2 in tonogoniometry, and we see another 3 more years with funding of somewhere around minimum of 1.5 to 2 crores. We'll be able to launch a product. We'll be able to have a working prototype and then look at how we can scale it up with either connecting with key stakeholders. So that is the kind of work that goes in, right? And this kind of a model is very useful in every technology. So if you're working with any innovation, okay, so I would like to summarize with this Venn diagram, wherein in design thinking concepts, we have to look at 3 aspects. Any innovation that we are going to work on, or I want to develop a new perimetry, or I want to develop a new XYZ tool or a vision chart, then look at, okay, you have to address what is desirable for the users. Okay, is there something what the user really needs? We might think there is a problem, but then now we are going back to the clinicians. We are now having a survey that is going to be done across all cadres, say government, glaucoma and non-glaucoma doctors, optometrists and things who are they really not doing gonioscopy, right? Why are they not doing it? If I give them a different, easier tool, will they do it, right? So ask them more questions. So at government level, we'll have some samples who are representing the private clinics, tertiary healthcare centers and research centers. So all cadres of eye care professionals needs to be interviewed. And we also need to interview the patients, okay, who have been undergoing repeated glaucoma evaluations. How would they feel when they have a one device that touches their eye? Okay, because currently we cannot go about doing without non-contact for gonioscopy, but then we got into a lot of ideas. So when we start interacting, currently I'm interacting with clinicians so we can understand what they want. And many of them came out with, okay, if you just give me a tonogoniography, okay, just get IOP values and things, that's good, but I'm not getting the oomph factor. Can I get an imaging tool? So now that is what we are working on. Can I integrate an imaging device along with gonioscopy? And what kind of imaging do I bring in, right? So that's how we create an IP portfolio. Though I'm not able to disclose anything further on that because we haven't filed the intellectual property or patent on that. It's in the process. So I would not be able to divulge more into that, but eventually in our subsequent talk, we will do that. Then after as you understand this user, you again have to go back to user many times, but then you have to discuss with the technical team whether it's possible. Is there a technology that can support what the user wants, right? User is like, we ask for a whole bunch of toffees, right? Like a child, but can you develop something technology? And then is it viable? So when you're looking at users, you ask, okay, how much, not just asking what is the problem, but ask them about, okay, if I give you this, will you buy it, right? Those are points when we, in India, things we ask, hey, you never give a critical opinion, unfortunately. Like, sometimes you ask the students, how was the class? That's good. But we need critical reviews. We need to really understand whether they will make innovation that when you bring out a product, will they buy it? Because any technology with which makes an impact has to have a value, and money is a key aspect. Okay, so user maker questions, and then technology questions are, okay, is the clinical problem well understood? Okay, is there a technology that is currently there that can answer this problem? If not, what is it that I can do, right? And what are the characteristics that are very interesting that I can create that will add up to the current existing technology and create an innovation? So that's why innovation is that the disruptive addition to the existing technology that is already there, but you create some values to the users. So how a technology can solve that, right? Say if I'm going to bring in imaging, I want to also bring in automatic detection of the angle structures, right? Those are something that can you do that in your cameras and things like that. And then very important, is there a market for it? Okay, and if you look at market scope, India and China are almost occupying over 55 to 60% of the global population, or even more. So, and angle correction glaucoma is somewhere quite prevalent in both these populations. and the numbers are rising. So there is a clear market, but how do we ensure that we bring in a product when we as a academic or research team and an indigenous India-based startups who work on and bring it, we have to create that trust, right? That is where these regulatory aligning with your thought process with ISO guidelines and to ensure your product is developed to the level where you can apply for a CE, FDA, or the current Indian medical device regulatory requirements, then that is kind of validation that's going to happen. So you have the science, so you have patents and publications that are going to add up to the value of your quality of product that you develop, the research that brings in those outputs. Secondly, you have the market and the key potential drivers, like, you know, what makes a clinician or a person use a product. Understand that and totally make a technology that is ready for a user. So currently, we are at a very earlier stage. If you say, as I told you, we're in stage 2, but when we slowly come in, we are looking at connecting with either existing technology manufacturers who are ISO 13485 certified, okay, and then we can look at how we can develop a complete product validation and mass production too, okay. So with that, I think I would thank all of you for your patient listening, and you can reach me at ramesh.sp at manipal.edu or at ramesh@remed.vision, which is a product on virtual reality for amblyopia therapy, right? So we have these technology solutions that are available, which have passed these gates. And today I had the opportunity to interact with you to present mainly on how we are in the earlier phase of design and development of tonogoniometry. Okay, so with that, I think I will stop my presentation. Okay, so thanks for your patient listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh, and on behalf of India Vision Institute too, thank you so much for being a part of the Excellence in Vision Science lecture series. And also, thank you for sharing, in depth about each and every step, like the development of the tonogoniography, and also highlighting the interdisciplinary approach with regard to such. So if it is okay for you, can we take questions from
Please,
audience?
please, I'll be happy to.
Yes, sir. So there is one question from Reena, which says voltage versus IOP measured has large error bars. As the IOP increases, what is the plausibilities for this?
Yeah, that's a very, very valid question, Ms. Reena. We had this as a major challenge. So that's when we started designing our, our basic controlling units. And, we worked on multiple filters that we wanted to crave, and then we amplifiers a circuit that we have designed in such a way. That's where our core IP lies in, wherein we were able to reduce those noises and get the key outputs so that were related to IOP. So that is currently in a stage where it works on a goat eye, right? So that's what I'm saying. There is a lot of ifs and buts, right? We have to really cross this stage. That is, stage 4, where we are very clear that whatever we are intending to develop is what the technology is showing. So some of the answers, some of the question of whether that fluctuation in voltage that we get is truly aligned to IOP values. Currently, with our experimental designs and our basic data on goat eyes, which are non-living eyes, we are able to generate it. But now we are now going to do it on animal models. And I think that research will help us answer that key problem, key question, and help us refine the technology so that we would get a more reliable value. Hope I answered your question, Reena.
Thank you, Ramesh. And more question from Reena, which says, what do you envision in terms of HVF and technology apart from head-mounted devices? This is because this is almost most of the patient asked this.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. One of the work that our team, where Dr. Shonraj and team, we are working on, and even the team from Dr. Ronnie George and team from SN and also Anil Prasad, we are working is eye tracking perimetry. So head-mounted perimeters are there, but we are also looking at how we can make eye tracking perimetry is feasible. But there are also electrophysiological aspects that are giving in objective measurements on the functional losses, right? So the way I see perimetry is going to be, we wanted to make it in a way that when you're doing a functional activity, right, with the kind of metaverse or things that are coming in, I'm more looking at, we'll be in a thing, and the kind of visual scanning that we make, or some kind of eye movements that we do, and things that we could classify a patient with glaucoma and things like that. So those are some questions that Dr. Shon and his team, we are trying to address and see whether we can have an objective measurement of an eye tracker based perimeter is something that is interesting the team. And parallelly, Dr. Paul Artis and many from the open perimetric interface are working on effective ways of screening, of doing thresholding, and making more innovative or a more easier algorithms, plus even stimulus for doing visual field screening, right? So there are objective and perimetries that are getting up more limelight, right? Including even the portable ERG things that might be of interest. But again, the challenges, the cost effectivity, and how we are going to use it in screening and clinical decisions, those are yet to be addressed. But I'm seeing that there is a trend of innovation in the area of head-mounted, and that is wearable virtual reality or a wearable kind of perimeter, but also looking at eye tracking as a more objective way of quantifying what the patient is having visual deficits are. Okay.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you. And there is one question here in the Q&A box from Fani Krishna. It says, how to convince engineering experts?
Yeah. So it is getting a good team is always a challenge, right? We kind of, and in an academic setup, let me answer this in two ways. In academic setup, all of us want promotions or growth in academia depends on publications and say patents and things like that. So that will interest an engineering team. But more than engineering team might be more interested because they are seeing real-time problems, right? So best thing we started with, I started going on interacting with the students. There are a lot of students group in engineering, or even if you're not in the engineering setup, you can go to incubators, right? There are so many incubators that are available today. The innovation ecosystem is so good that every university or every state has got an innovation hub, right? So there are a lot of engineers who want to solve their core interest is to solve a real-time problem. So I don't see, probably my experience being, I'm in an environment where I work more with engineers and things, so it's been more easier. But there were times when I was in Shankar Nethralaya, it was quite difficult to connect. We were working very closely with IIT group, IIT Madras, but the physical distance and the kind of interactions that a busy clinician has is very difficult, right? So it is a kind of balance that we have to make. So one way I see it happening is clinicians are more challenging because they don't have enough time with the clinical road. So we have to find out a way wherein we can pull their time, quality time, and whenever they are available, interact more with the clinicians to emphasize and understand the problem. Because what you read in literature is one, but what real-time clinical experience that the patient care happens is the key. So that is some time that we have to get. I find more challenges getting the chair time of a clinician. Secondly, engineers are more easier, but getting the right talent, it took us time. So we started working, for example, in our team, we started working with Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram, and then interest them in PhD, right? So Ms. Sorry that I put but I already gave her a doctorate. So Bharati is an engineering faculty who want to do a doctorate, right? So I told, yeah, please, we'll be happy, but you have to work on more problem solution. So we have to lay down that vision pathway here, create a clear problem statement and give the clinical inputs, but start to get students. So here I have Mr. Rakshit, okay, and Sandeep and Vasanta have been a fantastic engineering team who started working on. And then we get mentoring from key players. In India, it's unfortunate to see that we don't have core optoelectronics experts. And it was quite a boon that I found recently in the last 1.5 years. I've been working with Dr. Ravikant, right? So we have to find the right team. And one way to interest them is if they are not already a doctorate holder, then they could register for PhD, right? So since I was an eligible guide, I'm a guide, and Dr. G.K. Prabhu are guiding Ms. Bharati. And Dr. Meenakshi is a professor who is driven with research, right? So you have to find the right team of people, and then the key people are the students and the team, right? Then you start hiring them, writing for grants. So we wrote for a couple of grants, but we didn't get it through because our concept was not provable, and we didn't have enough user validation data. So now we have developed all those things. So we have a clear document that says the clinician wants it, this is how they want it, and this is the cost of production, the bill of materials, and the whole business model in place. So now we'll be able to raise some funds. And if you raise it, then you develop a more robust team. So Pani Krishna Atreyaji, I think it's fun interacting with them, and it is more like how we can engage them in understanding the key problem statement is a factor there.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. And there is one more. I mean, this particular session is also FB Live, so the recordings of the sessions will be available to access anytime in India Vision Institute FB page. I think no more questions from the participants, Dr. Ramesh. So any more questions, then we will pass it on to you, and we will.
Yeah, pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you again, Dr. Ramesh, and thank you all for joining us. So the next session on or the next talk on this Excellence in Vision Science lecture series will be in February 2022. So stay tuned to our India Vision Institute's social media platforms for the details of the programs. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh, again for joining us, and thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Kalpa, and again, all of you be safe and keep good health. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you all. Stay safe and have a nice evening.